Welcome back to Combat Mission Black Sea, where we're going to take a look at US Motorised Cavalry Troops. Being Humvee mounted, these units are somewhat overshadowed by their Stryker and Bradley based cavalry counterparts, but they're quietly very capable and sit at a really interesting point on the trajectory of modern warfare. The basic element of the motorised cavalry troop is the scout section. This consists of 4 soldiers riding around in an M1151 Humvee. The men are equipped with the M4A1 carbine, which is the standard individual weapon for the US and Black Sea. They're all fitted with 4x ACOG optics and fire 5.56 NATO standard ammunition. Each soldier has the usual Black Sea suite of other equipment we'd expect as well: hand grenades, body armour, radios, and enhanced night vision goggles, the combination image intensification and thermal AN/PSQ-20. The section splits into 2 two-man teams. The A team includes the section leader, who also has a pair of binoculars and a PDA with a satellite data link, and both soldiers supplement their ACOGs with thermal weapon sights, probably AN/PAS-13s. The B team also carries a pair of binoculars, and the last man is designated as an anti-tank specialist carrying a one-shot disposable AT-4 or M136. This is an 84mm anti-tank weapon with a heat warhead. It's effective against light Russian vehicles like BTRs and BMPs and can poke holes in the side and rear armour of Russian tanks like the T-72B3. The warhead isn't tandem, so it can be defeated by explosive reactive armour, and because it's single shot, it's best used at close range. The section's M1151 Humvee has an upgraded engine and more armour protection than earlier models. It can get around at speed on roads, slower off hard surfaces, and although it is theoretically resistant to small arms fire up to 7.62mm, that's not something to rely on. If nothing else, chances are that if someone is shooting at you on the modern battlefield, they probably have something nastier than small arms up their sleeve. The scout section vehicles have a turret mounting an M250 caliber heavy machine gun and an LRAS-3, the long-range advanced scout surveillance system. The M2 should be pretty familiar to everyone. With the API ammunition modelled in Black Sea, it can penetrate Russian light vehicles out to 1,000 metres. The M1151 carries a total of 600 rounds for it. The LRAS-3, meanwhile, brings a package of ISR capabilities to the section. It features optical and thermal sights with significant zoom and resolution, a laser rangefinder, and a GPS interferometer. This allows the scouts to spot targets or terrain features, range them, and get a GPS location for them. Obviously incredibly useful for reconnaissance. The turret does feature some armour around the gunner's position, but he has to remain exposed to operate the M2 and the LRAS-3, so again, getting shot at is something to avoid. The Humvee has 4 other seats, so enough room to transport a scout section with 1 seat left over. It also carries some extra ammunition: 500 rounds of 5.56, 400 rounds of 7.62 NATO, and an extra 3 AT-4s. It also features some higher end communications and data handling equipment, probably an FCBC-2, which further boosts the team's situational awareness and ability to input reconnaissance information. Additionally, because the scout section is split into 2 two-man teams, one team can remain in the vehicle as a driver-gunner pair, while the other operates as dismounts. Finally, Black Sea includes the option to equip the section with a javelin. This is operated by the second man in the A team. The section carries 2 missiles in total, and obviously this weapon provides not only a very effective anti-tank capability out to 2,500 meters, but the command launch unit with the thermal imager is another powerful observation tool. There are 2 of these scout sections in each platoon, backed up by a pair of M1167 tow carrier Humvees. As the name implies, this Humvee variant mounts a TOW anti-tank guided missile system in the turret, specifically the TOW-2B. This can reach out to 5,200 meters using sackless guidance, so the gunner has to keep his sights on the target to guide the missile, but this upgraded TOW is radio controlled rather than wire guided. It also features a top attack profile with 2 explosively formed penetrators, which will make a mess of any Russian tank it hits. Again, the powerful optics and thermal imager of the launcher double up as effective spotting equipment. The M1167 carries 6 missiles in total and a crew of 4. These don't take the TOW with them when they dismount, but the loader at least carries an M320 grenade launcher with 26 40mm HEDP grenades, so if things are going dramatically wrong, the team has some light anti-armor capability to discourage any BTRs or BMPs that get too close. Leading the platoon we have another 2 teams in Humvees, the platoon HQ and a HQ support section. Both these elements are organised similar to the scout sections. The B team remains the same, but the A team gains a laser designator and its second man loses his thermal weapon sight in exchange for another M320 grenade launcher. The Humvees are both M1151s again, but this time armed with the Mark 19 automatic grenade launcher instead of the 50 caliber M2. The Mark 19 fires 40 by 53mm high explosive dual purpose grenades from 48 round boxes. These are not tremendously accurate, in Black Sea at least, especially past 1000 meters, but the little heat warheads will quickly Swiss cheese Russian IFVs and can do significant subsystem damage to tanks. The Humvee carries a total of 288 grenades for the Mark 19, but is in all other respects the same as the other reconnaissance Humvees right down to the LRAS-3. So the whole platoon runs to 2 Mark 19 Humvees, 2 50 caliber M2 Humvees and 2 tow Humvees, which can stay up and running with 4 dismounted pairs, potentially including 2 javelins. There are 3 of these platoons in the troop, led by the troop HQ elements and backed up by a 120mm mortar section and an RQ-11B Raven drone. The troop HQ is a 3-man team riding in an M1151 Recon Humvee with a designated driver. This is backed up by a 2-man XO team in an unarmed M1151, leaving 2 seats free for any attached elements, and a 2-man fire support team, or FIST, carried in an M1200 Armoured Knight. The Armoured Knight is a 4-wheeled armoured car, though not that armoured. It has similar turret to the Humvees with an M250 caliber machine gun and an FS3 fire support sensor system. It's probably easiest to describe the FS3 as similar to the LRAS-3, they use the same model in game, but specifically tailored towards target designation for precision munitions. It has a crew of 2, driver and gunner, and all the communications equipment in the back enhances the ability of the observer team to call for fire rapidly. The heavy mortar section is built around the M120 120mm mortar. This can fire out beyond 7,000 meters with a close-in dead zone out to 318. It has a 4-man crew and needs to be set up before firing. Setting up and tearing down both take 1.2 minutes. The team itself carries 14 high explosive and 2 XM395 bombs. The XM395 is a near precision weapon using GPS guidance, so it's significantly more accurate and thus more effective at scoring direct hits than the unguided HE. The team rides around in an M1152 Humvee, which has the open back and no turret. It's unarmed but carries more communications equipment and extra mortar ammunition, another 28 high explosive, another 2 XM395s and 10 white phosphorus smoke bombs. There are 2 of these mortar teams in the heavy mortar section, led by a 2-man section HQ in an LMTV with a driver. LMTV stands for Light Medium Tactical Vehicle. It's a truck. This one is armed with an M2 HMG, has space for 14 passengers, and carries a supply of extra ammunition. This is obviously not something you want to take any fire at all, but it is useful for some limited ammunition resupply and for carting around any useful potential attachments to the troop. Finally, the troop has an organic RQ-11B Raven drone. This is a small hand-launched drone. In-game it's vulnerable to anti-aircraft fire, but it's too small to be targeted by SAMs. Drones are always useful, more so for a reconnaissance unit and especially such a light unit as the Motorised Cavalry. So that's a quick overview of the weapons, organisation and equipment of the Motorised Cavalry Troop. What are the tactical implications of all those elements? Probably the most important implication is the troop's fragility. This is a formation that needs to avoid coming under fire as much as possible. Humvees are going to evaporate under any kind of anti-vehicle fire, and the 4-man scout sections do not have the manpower to sustain casualties, not to mention the 2-man split teams. This fragility means that the troop needs to be able to control engagements as much as possible. That means knowing where the enemy is and keeping them at arm's length in order to retain the freedom to accept or decline engagements. So certain situations, such as operating in close proximity to the enemy due to the terrain, and certain tasks, such as moving to contact, can be difficult for motorised cavalry units to perform without undue risk. On the other hand, one of the advantages to being a lightweight, low manpower unit is a low signature. Humvees are much smaller and much quieter than, for example, M3 Bradleys. An LRAS-3 peeking over a crest, or 2 dismounts with a Javelin CLU hiding in a woodline are very difficult to spot, but at the same time, they're capable of very effective observation and surveillance. The formation strongly emphasises long-range spotting and comms. There are thermal images, powerful optical equipment, GPS interferometers, satellite communications, and data links on almost every vehicle. So not only is the cavalry troop good at spotting the enemy, they're also built to pass all that information back to higher headquarters in order for them to construct a detailed intelligence picture. In other words, motorized cavalry formations are skewed towards more passive reconnaissance roles. This doesn't mean that they can't participate in more active reconnaissance actions, just that they need to play the observation surveillance part while other tougher, more casualty-resistant elements do the dangerous bits. The formation isn't exactly toothless though. It has some very significant anti-tank firepower. 2 tow launchers and 2 javelins per platoon is certainly not something to sniff at, but the technical properties of these weapons reinforce the emphasis on keeping the enemy at arm's length. Tow can reach out beyond 5 kilometers, javelin to 2.5, and they can neutralize any armored threat out there, providing they're not defeated by active protection systems and that they have time to either lock on or guide. Thinking offensively then, it's not impossible to go tank hunting. The low signature and effective spotting ability that makes the Humvees and dismounts good at stealthy observation also works for getting into firing positions to begin anti-tank engagements. It's not something to be entered into lightly though. Tow and javelin both require line of sight to the target, which naturally means that the target can probably draw line of sight back, and any engagements run the risk of getting a 125mm shell or a burst of 30mm cannon fire in return. The troop is capable of attacking targets indirectly as well though. The organic heavy mortar section allows vehicles and teams to rapidly call in 120mm mortar fire. The XM395 bombs in particular offer a level of precision that can be used to accurately and effectively strike point targets and stationary enemy vehicles spotted by the forward elements without increasing their signature in the way that an ATGM launch does. This capability is enhanced by the fire support team in their M1200 Armoured Knight, who can use both the Raven drone and the communications equipment in their vehicle to very rapidly direct the mortars. Backed up by attached artillery assets, the troop makes for an effective reconnaissance strike complex and can potentially deliver some serious damage to enemy units without firing a shot themselves or revealing their positions. So motorized cavalry troops are very effective formations, providing they don't operate beyond their means. They really do not want to engage in direct combat with the enemy. This is not a reconnaissance unit that should be barreling down roads trying to find the enemy. It doesn't perform movement to contact, it's so fragile it performs movement to death. But it has the means to mitigate risk by spotting the enemy before making contact and a low signature that helps them stay hidden. If engagements are necessary, ATGMs, or preferably mortars or artillery, give the scouts the ability to destroy the enemy before they get too close. The big enablers behind this are the less sexy stuff. Radios, data links, thermal imagers, interferometers, optical equipment. We always like to focus on weapons and armour, the heavy metal and the pointy end, but the reality of modern warfare appears to be an increasingly visible battlefield. The anti-battlefield isn't gone yet, and it certainly isn't gone in Black Seas 2017, but the distribution of this kind of communication and spotting equipment down to low levels like this is one of the drivers behind this ongoing change. And that's what makes this formation so interesting. Hope you all enjoyed this one. I'll catch you in the next video.